Okay. I think we can get started, colleagues. We have something pretty exciting planned, and we don't want to lose much time. So let me just tell you quickly what we have planned and how we're going to do this today. So we're going to do a bit of a constructive debate style discussion between colleagues from 6 country offices who are all peers, who are turning big AI ambitions into practical steps and programs, and they have already been learning a lot on the way, and we'll be hearing that today. My name is Luisa. I'm the Innovation Community Specialist of the Region Innovation and Digital team. And I help organize learning sessions like the one today so that we can really spotlight what we're learning and that what we're learning helps us in turn frame what this means for the direction UNDP is taking. We'll be hearing from Sheila in the Bangladesh country office, Ansia in Indonesia, Yinwei in Malaysia, Aman in Nepal, and Yasas in Sri Lanka and Huyen in Vietnam. So a wide range, and we're super excited to have them here. And I've already seen a lot of you have been putting where you're joining us from. Please continue so we all get a bit of a sense of who's in the room. We've had a lot of people from Asia, but even beyond, so that's quite exciting. Um, a little bit of housekeeping. This will be rather fast-paced and dynamic because in those 1.5 hours, we really want to get the most out of it and hear from those 6 AI journeys. We'll have 3 rounds of discussions that will be facilitated by Sri Ganesh and Afrin, and they'll introduce themselves too. And I'll be a bit of a timekeeper because this is going to be a bit of a challenge, so bear with us. You will see me at all times, and you will see a timer that looks a little bit like that. Let me turn it on for a second. Okay, well, give me a second. You'll see it when the person is speaking. So we'll have rounds of 2, 3, and 4 minutes. And when time is up, you'll see it, but I'll also make a sign like that just to, as an extra reminder, a kind one. With that, just so we know a little bit the rules of the game today, I will hand over to my colleague Sri Ganesh, who will share with us why we're doing the session today and why we're doing it now. Over to you, Sri Ganesh.
Thank you, Louisa. Hi, everyone. I'm Sri Ganesh. I'm the Regional Digital Transformation Specialist here at the Bangkok Regional Hub. And glad to see so many faces, colleagues that we've met and seen before, but also new faces in the list of participants here. This is not the start of a journey. This is sort of maybe the next step of a journey that we've been going with country offices, right? Lockstep here from the regional hub. And one of the things that we had done a few months back was a sense-making exercise with CEOs in the Asia-Pacific region to understand what are the kinds of digital activities that are being undertaken, what specific areas they are engaging in. And we were so happy to see a lot of rich and varied engagement on AI. AI, as everyone knows, I don't need to repeat, is big and will be big for UNDP going forward. And a lot of you already have a leg up in this journey because you have already started to engage on AI before AI became the new thing. Sorry, there's a
Sri
You're
Ganesh,
muted, Sri Ganesh.
Yeah. So what was it that we discovered a little bit from our sense making around AI that we did with the country offices? There were several themes, but I sort of want to for the purposes of today, concentrate on 3 large facets that emerge, patterns that emerge. One was there was quite a bit of strategic and governance level engagements that countries were doing. This could be in terms of assessments to understand baseline conditions, whether it is using UNDP's own ILA or the UNESCO RAM, in several countries like Mongolia, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, as well as several others. But whether an assessment was done or not done, there's sort of actual entry points and engagement happening around AI strategy and policy, right, in several countries. There's also, this is while these might be national level conversations with government, countries, CEOs have also been engaging quite a bit on just understanding perspectives around governance from a citizens level lens and doing consultations in relation to how do we think about AI and the harms and the benefits of AI. Similarly, even on the governance realm, there's work going on in taking these high-level AI principles that we can all agree on and actually figuring out, in a very practical way, how do you operationalize that in practice with solutions that are already being developed in countries. A second entry point that we were seeing was that, a pattern that was emerging, that there was a lot of AI solutions rooted in sectoral entry points. So, for example, quite a bit of AI use in public service delivery aspects. There's work that is sort of emerging around social protection in Malaysia, AI solutions for human rights defenders, right? And what is interesting in these sectoral entry points is that you're truly starting to see AI being leveraged as an enabler, not just for development outcomes, but also for programmatic units within UNDP country offices as well, because naturally digital and AI are enablers and have this cross-cutting function to enhance and further the impact of other program areas. A third reflection from there was also a key reflection was there is a lot of work that is ongoing but uneven around internal readiness in relation to AI and the capacity building related to that. In the case of some of you, for example, let's say Bangladesh is one example where they have been quite advanced in actually developing their own internal task force, looking at how the country office's efforts itself can be magnified in relation to AI. So the intent here in today's discussion between these 6 country offices as a starting point is to elicit some of these demands that they're seeing, the kinds of offers that they're doing, and we hope that others today will also be able to reflect on that. And we will sort of ask you at various points to give your reflections on what you are hearing and how that resonates with what you yourself are doing in your respective country offices. We are going to have this quite timed in terms of reflections. So what I'm going to do is move into the round one, right? And I'll ask each of the country offices in turn to reflect a little bit, 2 to 3 minutes max per country office, right? 2 minutes if you can, to just give us a sense of what are the demands that you are hearing from your government counterparts in relation to AI, not just being asked, but also what you're seeing, right? In government. Maybe I could start with with Bangladesh, Sheila, if you don't mind. 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes max, if you can.
So is the AI who's going to look that I'm on time? No, or I think that Lewis is doing that.
You will see.
I think that
Yeah.
Okay, it's all human, right? So anyway, I think that thank you, Sri Ganesh and the team. Of course, it's good to be connected again. So from the webinar, I think that we will probably benefited. But I have 2 minutes, so let me sort of dive in. What are the things that we are also hearing and not hearing, and the offer that that we have so far from the Bangladesh office, working with the government in respect of AI. We have been sort of coordinating with the government, especially the ICT division in 2024, in developing the AI policy, where one of our flagship project, A2I, was partly sort of into that process, where we look into the technical, ethical, societal implication of AI, where we have also been able to sort of bring in our headquarter colleagues in understanding on the AI. We also have reached to our regional colleagues as well while we were developing the draft policy and helping the government to look into the more ethical and the governance aspect of the framework itself. So I think that this policy would be is again picking up by this year, and we are hoping that we'll be part of that journey, where I think this sort of platform would be useful to share and also get some of the nuanced issue. If you look into the whole governance framework and the ethical use, which is very important, as we are heading towards more dynamic and more, I think that the whole world order is also changing as well. We have also been engaged with UNESCO in doing this RAM, so readiness assessment methodology, where we are looking into the legal regulation, social aspects, scientific, educational, technical, and infrastructural issue where the Bangladesh government is heading, the capacity, and then also where it needs to be done. Yes. Just one more. So I think that what we are not hearing is on the data governance and the data security itself. So I think that's very important going forward. So I'll stop here. Thanks.
Thank you, Sheila. Maybe I move to Malaysia. Yinwei, what are the kinds of demands that you're hearing from your government counterparts? What are you seeing in terms of demands, and what are you not seeing, maybe?
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Sri Ganesh, for this opportunity. So coming from a Malaysia context, our engagement with the government has shown interest from the partners in terms of foresight and also looking into the governance and ethical part of AI. Malaysia is currently working on the next 13 Malaysia plan for the next 5 years. Which is pretty aligned to also our own country documents. And through those engagements, I think there's a strong ask from the government to see how we could work with them in providing technical inputs in those strategic action plans and also blueprints for the next 5 years. And they're also quite interested to get our ideas on how to make the citizens feel that they are able to utilize AI in their day-to-day life. That they are not just a jargon that is being mentioned out there in documents by the government, but is something that they can feel on the ground on how AI could support their day-to-day work or their social aspects of their lives as well. And how can we meaningfully incorporate that with the right guardrails and also risk managements in place? So that's the initial demands that we have. I think someone else is speaking from the other end. Yeah, so I think I'll stop here.
Thanks, Yinwei. Yasas, you from Sri Lanka, what are the demands that you are seeing there?
Yes, colleagues, I think, most of you know that our government is quite new, just over half a year old, and their sort of AI has been at the heart of most of the ongoing conversations as well. But starting point being, I'll speak to more on this in the next couple of rounds, but how UNDP supported the development of the AI strategy. So now the sort of priority is how this is translated into actionable sort of ways forward. How do they implement some of the recommendations of this? As the first step, this was developed by an expert committee that was set up with technical expertise from private sector, development sector, and across the board. And now they're institutionalizing the authority to sort of act on this within the new digital economy ministry. But some of the key priorities and demands that we're hearing from the government is on public sector AI rollout. How can public sector use AI, utilize AI better for public service delivery? There's a lot of interest in that and a lot of opportunity for us as well. But also they're looking at education because they see that as a critical component of mainstreaming AI within the citizenry. How do you incorporate this into the curriculum? But until we get there, they're piloting this AI clubs initiative within 100 schools across the country, where students can come together, have a dialogue, have a conversation around AI, and get that information and that thinking, which can be sort of inculcated from a very young age. Beyond that, they're looking at regulation. What are some of the policy, privacy, data laws that are required as well? And also, of course, looking at the infrastructure, because we have a digital economy blueprint that's currently being involved. They're looking at a national data center. So how does AI come into this? How can we leverage AI to, okay, I'm hearing the Oscar music, but in a nutshell, it's a very sort of overarching different sort of areas that the government's looking at, prioritizing the few that I just mentioned.
Thank you, Yasas. And me moving to your South Asian neighbor, the other end, Aman from Nepal.
Hi, thank you, Sri Ganesh. So I'll just be try to be very concise with the question, right? So given the nature and the outreach of UNDP has at different levels of government and with the different ministries, there's a lot of demand that we see from the government, right? But if we try to break it down, there are basically demands on policy and regulatory support, on policy implementation as well. First of all, it's development, right? So the government is working on AI policy and AI strategies, and we are kind of engaged in both of them. They also want to understand how to create guidelines and standards, right, for AI development. And most of it we see is how the government wants to minimize the risk that AI possesses, but also how to maximize the benefit that it brings, right? So there needs to be a balance on that. We see a lot of concern on the risk that the low-income countries like Nepal would possess, right? There's also on policy implementation, and that is mostly on developing AI champions, basically awareness and education on the bureaucracy and also different levels of the government, right? A lot of demand on data, and data, there is strong demand on natural language processing and the language data. They also want, some piloting support. Chatbot, as always, it's a given that most of the government want to use chatbots for service delivery, and also on judiciary and human rights area, and also on predictive and trend analysis, right? Because the government has a lot of data that they want to make sense of. So there is a strong support demand on that. They also want support on hardware, but they know it is not UNDP's forte. So they want UNDP to kind of encourage development partners to invest on hardwares, right? So we see a lot of urgency and need, but there is acute shortage of capacity and human resource and infrastructures. Thank you.
Thank you, Aman. And Bu Anshe from Indonesia, could you sort of tell us what are the demands that you're seeing from your government and country?
Thank you, Sri Ganesh. Good afternoon, colleagues. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Yeah, so demand. In Indonesia, we see all kinds of demand from policy, implementation, efficient adoption, discussion on on ethic and safety, data governance, increased capacity, especially for youth, towards Indonesia 2045. So there are a lot of buzz. Everybody wants to be associated with the use of AI. And there are some good example that is already starting in Indonesia. Just also want to mention that there are a lot of effort in bringing private sector into all the discussion. We just have a discussion with Microsoft. There is a startup in AI learning, and so there are a lot of things going on. What we think that is not very clear is like what Indonesia want to actually using AI per se. Like it's at this point it's like romanticizing the power of AI, but we think that it needs to be bring to something meaningful, anchor to public service or many other potential that AI can provide, but it needs to be grounded to something that can be meaningful. Then we will tackle the policy implementation and capacity and other discussion that is currently happening.
Thank you, Buanchie. And last but not least, Huynh from Vietnam.
Good
What are
afternoon,
the
everyone.
demands?
Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. And actually, Vietnam's case is not peculiar, basically in terms of the needs and demand in terms of AI development. And as other colleagues from other countries have shared, basically, what we have seen from Vietnam is their evolvement of AI application and adaptation in the private sector. But from the UNDP side, basically, what we have heard from the government side as a demand, so a quest for support is regarding AI governance. So, governance in terms of legislation to govern it in the way that it is not, putting a brake on AI development, because Vietnam considers AI development as one of the key technology, science, and digital transformation pillars in their current and next 5 years development plan. But they do care about ethics, how to protect citizens, how to protect the nature from being affected by AI, development over time. And of course, that is everyone else's concern. So this morning, for instance, we attended one session about how to develop AI regulation that is promoting also sustainable development while protecting human development and not holding up the countries from developing. So it is a whole lot of conflicting demand there. And in terms of the support for the public sector, what they have asked for is how to utilize AI to support citizens in different areas, especially in public service delivery and healthcare and education. So those are the needs and demand right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Huynh. So as you can see from these 6 countries that I've spoken, the demands that they are seeing, there is a lot of overlap, right? And what's interesting is the development context in each of these countries are and maybe even the political context are very different, but the demands are starting. There are sort of patterns that are emerging around maybe the framing that I gave earlier, in terms of the governance and the strategic, actual adoption. And I like the use of Buanchie's thing, to move beyond the romanticization of AI, right? And the needs that are coming. So I'd like to use this, we'll come back to this, but to move on to the next round right now, which is to sort of understand a little bit more around what the country is offering in terms of what's the AI offer looking like in relation to the sort of demand that they're seeing. Some of you all have already talked a little bit about it, but maybe I could start again with Sheila from Bangladesh. You have about a few minutes for this, max, and Louisa will put on the timer as usual.
Yeah, the timer is really it gives my heartbeat as well. It gets I don't want though I love the music, Louisa. So I think that, but I'll try to be within the time frame. So it's basically I talked about some of the offer when I was talking about the demand as well, because it's a two side of the coin, right? So I think that what I will emphasize here is that what we are also offering based on the need that we are also seeing. I think that the offer that from the country office, of course, the knowledge, the expertise that we're pulling in, not from the country of itself, of course, from the regional office and the headquarter where we are bringing the other colleagues to help us on the policy level. We have already working very closely with the ministry, not only the ICT division, we are also working with the local government division. There's a land management digitalization process going on. Most probably some of the AI tools might be in use, but what we are also very focused on doing with the Gates Foundation is to help the local government institution to develop a lever where we are sort of reaching out to the digital part of it, where we are also looking into the digital divide, where a community who doesn't always speak and read can really interact with that certain chat bot where they can get the support. So it's already in the process of developing. There's the first phase. We're going to have a discussion with the local government where we are going to escalate. So this is the offer. We also have a chat bot that we use internally, but that's also the replication is also in the process with the city corporation, where this sort of chatbot would help them to understand some of their own policy and procedures, and very quickly to understand where are the procedure if somebody is looking for it. So it could be also citizen-centric, where citizen can also look into the offer using that chatbot. We are also offering the government and the civil society and the youth as well to look about the culture and identity and politics in using AI more ethically, and also how culture and identity also shaping up by AI globally, and it has to be also in the country context where language is very important. So we are also engaging Toronto University on their knowledge and expertise, but also on the ground how we can sort of look into that. And moving forward, there's a discussion on the agriculture, on the predictive AI, and especially on the DPI. We are also sort of looking into that, working with different ministries, and I think that at the end I'm going to say that there is now a lot of demand is coming up from different ministry, as we have been approached to talk and about this AI offer globally, what UNDP is doing, and they're keen to learn from us, and we are preparing those packages as well, where of course your Garnish and the team would be good to get your help on that. So I'll stop here, and this is where we are sort of working.
Thank you, Sheila. That's a sort of a wide array of work covering a large spectrum of work, cutting across those sort of three large things that we talked about that I mentioned at the beginning. If I may move to Yinwei from Malaysia with the same question. Thank you.
Thank you, Sri Ganesh. So for Malaysia, I think this opportunity with the government came during a mission that Kani was having, and we actually leveraged that mission to have a dialogue about how AI could improve social protection systems in Malaysia. And as you know, Malaysia is moving to a higher income country. There are a lot of new challenges like aging population, changing labor markets, and widening income inequality that we need to look into to make sure that our social protection system continues to be robust and resilient in the long run. We have very good social assistance, social insurance, and also financing facilities in Malaysia. But what the government was really interested is looking ahead with those challenges. How can we pinpoint some of the poverty service gaps with more precision and look into group-specific vulnerabilities that are more localized that could meet their social protection needs? So from that dialogue itself, we've prompted a lot of discussion with various stakeholders in the government ministries on how interoperability between those different systems, different metrics to measure multidimensional well-being could be put in place, as we're not focusing solely on poverty itself with the nature and context of where Malaysia is, but really looking at an improvement in terms of the overall well-being of the citizens. So with that, we're also working very closely with the Ministry of Digital in the Digital Inclusion Index, in which AI would play a huge part of the consideration on the pillars and the matrices that would be used, whether in terms of how citizens could access it, how could afford it, the trust level and the relevance of the AI products and services that are made available, both from a public service delivery point of view and also in terms of how they can improve the economic livelihood conditions of their own life. So that is somewhat the interventions that the government is taking, and UNDP is providing support from the technical side, and also in terms of convening the different stakeholders, especially with our work on the ground with communities. And at a broader level, also looking at South-South cooperation, because Malaysia has been quite advanced in producing AI frameworks and strategic plan and action plan, which will also be launched end of this year. How could we also work together with the regional partners and share some of those learnings and early outcomes with the groups that we are currently the ASEAN chair as well. So there will be opportunities there for us to also then demonstrate some of the early findings and learnings from those initiatives that the government has taken. That's all from my end.
Thank you, Yinwei. In the interest of time, let me sort of move on to Yasas from Sri Lanka.
Thank you. Thanks, Sri Ganesh. I think on our offer currently to the government, it's part of our broader digital offer to the Ministry of Digital Economy here as well. But it's been sort of the follow-up steps from the strategy development. How do we sort of translate this into policy and the regulations that we've been talking about, and what are some of the actionable items that the government, as I mentioned earlier as well, what are their priorities are and how can we support. But from UNDP's point of view, I think our focus is working closely with the regional team as well as the Chief Digital Officer as well, now that you are coming together, is really promoting the inclusive AI, the safeguards, the ethics behind it to ensure that these very important factors are not left, or that they are really incorporated within the thinking and then the actioning of these the way forward. We've already started a link with UNESCO, who's also leading when it comes to ethics in AI as well. Two of our SICRA colleagues have been part of a program, and we're looking forward to using that collaboration as well as the learnings from that to really give that thinking and to conduct those trainings within the key public sector officials to make sure that this is at the heart of their planning. We are also really pushing them to use UNDP as a convener, because there are a lot of different partners who are keen in on supporting AI when it comes to the government interventions. But given our footing so far, being at the heart of the strategy development, to really use us as that convener, and with given the relationship and then the footing we have with the government. And then similarly, we've been sort of encouraging and supporting regional and global knowledge exchanges, which the regional colleagues are familiar with as well, so that Sri Lanka sort of looks at the different journeys of other countries around us as well as beyond, to learn from what's been done, what's worked, what hasn't worked, so we can sort of use that knowledge to leapfrog in our Sri Lanka's journey. So that's in a nutshell what our offer currently is. I know I have a bit more time, but I'll leave it there. I know we're overall behind time.
Thanks, Yasas. And then to move to Nepal, Aman.
Yes, thank you, Sri Ganesh. So we're basically engaging with the government at two different fronts, right? So we are working on policy and strategy, and piloting few initiatives in different sectors. So I'll just give a brief overview of how we are supporting on the policy and strategy, right? So we have UNDP has a strong collaboration with e-governance board. So the board is currently based at the Prime Minister's office. They had a big mandate, and one of the mandates was also on AI strategy development. So we kind of started working on AI strategy since November 2024. In the meantime, the Ministry of Communication is also working around AI, and they're trying to develop this whole policy and strategy. So they started with working on AI concept paper, where they try to show what the government's viewpoint is on AI, and it created a basis for AI policy, right? So in the meantime, the whole AI policy and strategy is kind of developing simultaneously, right? So they created a strict timeline for themselves, because they have a strong push and urgency of working around AI, right? A lot of private sector is working on it. It is actually led by the private sector right now, and the government is trying to really facilitate and try and regulate the process as well. So the policy is in the final stage. We hear it might be endorsed soon, but they have recommended few institutional arrangements as well. So how we are trying to work right now is work with the Ministry of Communication and the e-governance board simultaneously, and try and make sure that the policy and strategy is aligned at the same time, right? So the strategy won't take too much time to develop once the policy is endorsed. And the Ministry of Communication will be taking a lead into endorsing it and working on implementation of the same thing. So we see, because of this urgency, there is a lot of confusion within the government as well, which agency is going to take lead and which agency is going to support. But we are working with all the relevant ministries and try and make sure that this thing is well coordinated, right? Apart from this, we are also working on piloting. Chatbot is one of them. The bot is right now
আসলে এটা
integrated in
বললেই হতো প্রত্যেককে একসাথে
5 different local governments. And we're trying to see how we can scale it, how to better use the whole system, right? And after that, we're also working on agriculture, AI-based soil and water management, and also on digital soil mapping. So roughly these are the engagements we have, and we are trying to see where we can add more value into this whole AI ecosystem. Thank you.
Thanks, Aman, for being on time. And moving to Bu Anshie in Indonesia.
Okay, thank you. In Indonesia, we are working with various different level of government, but also different ministries. Yeah, so we work, for example, and this is like in some other country, this is part of our broader digital support to government on digital transformation, and we're working with Ministry of Health, Ministry of Social Affairs, bureaucratic reform, and Ministry of Village. I probably want to zoom into the work with Ministry of Village just to give the example of our support now. So we are with Ministry of Village. We have developed and keep increasing or keep strengthening the AI power application called Strive, and that is to support the effort of Ministry of Village to increase inclusivity in the local planning. The way we get to this space is that we have been working with Ministry of Village in strengthening the local plan, and one of the things we were doing is to do what we call deep listening, which allow for individual aspiration gathering, if you may, and then as part of that, we have to do analysis, and so that from that analysis we will identify issue and form the portfolio of initiative that to solve those issues in particular villages. But that takes a lot of time and very time consuming and labor consuming. So then come the potential with AI, and this is where we develop this application Strive that will do that, and obviously exponentially faster in doing all of that we will do in 3-4 months for just maybe four or 5 villages. So right now we are focusing and making this use case very strongly for Indonesia, because this is to support the government priority to build Indonesia from the village level and from the very. So that's what we're doing. Strive has been part of Ministry of Village, many things for finance. And right now we are working to expand, right? So the potential impact on this is really big in Indonesia. Indonesia government gave $5 billion per year for all the 75,000 villages across the country. And with Strive, it allows for de-risking the investment, allow Indonesia to have better spend of their investment, and it will reach about 12 million people in the country. So we think this is a use case of AI that can be very meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu and Xie. And last but not least, Vietnam, Huyen.
Good afternoon again. Thank you so much. And again, here in Vietnam, we also, are doing a number of things that are similar to some other country offices. But what I want to highlight today is what we have been doing by walking rather than talking. And I think that, I would like to share with you some slides that that you might see what we are doing from the country office here in order to support Vietnam in terms of AI application. So, as people have talked about, the ILA, the readiness assessment with UNESCO and some other initiatives, including also the task force. Here in Vietnam, we also have that task force, to talk about AI application not only externally but also inside the country office. But I want to share with you, may I show the slide? Do you have something?
Yeah, very quickly.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So what I'm going to share with you is basically, what we have been doing here in the country office for Vietnam and for the Vietnamese citizens. And oops, what is happening here? So basically, what we have been trying to do is to come up with a tool to facilitate the access to e-services or public administrative procedures which are being provided via the national e-service portal or provincial e-service portals in the past. So what we have found is that, exactly about the digital divide between different population groups. And of course, for the use of this service, it is more or less with the elite, with about 7% or 8% of the population across the country. And one of the key issue is with the lack of assistance to citizens in order to understand what is required for each of the administrative procedures. So we, from another important initiative that we are doing here, the Vietnam Provincial Governance and Public Administration Performance Index, we identified 15 most essential and most commonly used administrative procedures that citizens always, do during their lifetime, across the country. So we came up with the idea to develop the AI power tool in order to assist citizens in order to get access to this. And of course, we wanted to say that it is important to start small with an experiment, and it took us time to develop because Vietnamese is an ethnic minority in the AI world. So I think that, in many other countries it's the same, right? And we also, launched it last year with on the day of the Vietnam Day for Digital Transformation, and we transferred it to our government, central government, in order to consider incorporating into their the national portal. So this is a kind of advocacy work that we are still doing, and a lot of things need to be done. And I hope that the slides that are going to be shared across will be useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Huyen. And, just to also add in the Vietnam case, there's also assessments that have been done.
Yes.
Vietnam is gaining a lot of interest from not just us at UNDP, but a lot of the other UN agencies as well. And there's sort of, collaboration that is ongoing also between UNDP and UNESCO in the country around the sort of policy and strategy space as well. Let me just sort of, some quick reflections from me here before we move on to the sort of general, the others that are here on this call. When we look at the sort of the 6 countries' experiences, not just in terms of demand, but also in terms of what there is offering, if you put them together, that covers, in my opinion, the full landscape of almost the kinds of things that you want to be thinking about, when you're talking about AI. Whether this means in terms of, strategy level, solutions, or whether it is engagement with government, with private sector, with development partners, with citizens, and a variety of different types of roles, right? Where, for example, AI is being used for achieving development outcomes, right? Or where UNDP is actually being a key convener for some of these, right? But if I were to, of course, there are different ways of cutting the sort of reflections that have come from all of you. But I think there are certain things that, for me, stand out quite a bit from all of these collective things. One was, this resonation of, Yasas, what he talked about in Sri Lanka, to leverage UNDP almost as a convener for other agencies, other development partners into the sort of digital transformation conversation, right? The ability of UNDP to actually work at levels of government, both at the national level, but also, with line ministries and also local government. So you're starting to get a holistic picture, not just at the national level, but right down at service delivery and citizen level engagement, right? And the idea of bringing together not just other development partners, but also trying to talk with private sector engagement, right? I think we are at the sort of early stages of the private sector engagement space, but which I think is going to be even more important going forward. We are living in a changed landscape with developmental funding reducing over time, right? And there's value in us coming together, not just to learn lessons from each other, but also banding together, because then our offer becomes collectively much stronger when we have competition with other development partners also in the region. And given the advantage that UNDP has, not just at the different levels of government and boots on the ground, right? I'm sort of, it's really wonderful to hear the sort of rich and varied engagements that are going on here. Now, for the next, sort of 10 to, under 15 minutes, right? We've heard these sort of varied experiences. There are a lot of similarities, but, different contexts from these 6 country offices. I would like others we would like the others who've been listening to this to share their quick reflections. Is what you're hearing from the 6 country offices resonating with what is going on in your own country context? Are there opportunities that you're seeing? Are there opportunities that you have not seen, right? For those who want to please raise your hand, and you could speak for a few minutes, right? Or if you want, you could also put your reflections in the chat.
Hi, Shri Ganesh. This is Sudeshna from India, if I may come in
Yes.
quickly.
Yes, come in.
Hi, thank you. So I might have to keep my video. Okay, I think it's working. Okay.
Yeah,
So I do have some few reflections, and also I just wanted to check if my colleague from the Accelerator Lab, Vedant, is also in the call. Vedant, if you are there, I'm guessing he's not.
Yes, I'm here.
Vedant, okay. Vedant, you may want to come in and maybe I could add on to it from the development cooperation and SSC bit.
Yeah, sure. I think what Sudeshna is referring to are some of the experiments that were led by the Accelerator Lab in the India office, specifically on artificial intelligence and machine learning. And we are seeking partnerships on 2 fronts. One is our work on data and climate resilient agriculture, which is now being scaled across India by our Apex Development Bank, which is the National Bank of Agriculture and Rural Development. They are going to utilize this data for climate resilient investments of the $12 billion portfolio this year. And parallelly, we've also conducted experiments on targeting air pollution using convolution neural networks. and this is in partnership with the University of Nottingham. And here we were able to identify um, uh, something around 36,000 brick kilns using geospatial data and machine learning algorithms. And then we work closely with the government of Bihar, which is a state government in India, on actually identifying brick kilns that don't really follow the green technology policy of the government of Bihar, and which led to the closure of about 4,000 brick kilns in the state in late 2023. And so, following that, also with our digital transformation efforts, we're now working on an experiment on hyper-local mapping of air pollution on transact routes using IoT sensors with 100 volunteers. And this is happening in 2 cities. I will share the link of the data. It's called Vayu, the platform, where you can see in real time, where are the hotspots of air pollution and how the Bihar State Pollution Control Board is actually using that to address, say, open burning of waste. So if there is a sudden spurt in the map, then the State Pollution Control Board sends their teams to kind of put the fire out. So that's been an interesting experiment. I'll share links to these projects, and I think maybe I'll hand over to Sudeshna for our efforts on trilateral cooperation to take these experiments out of India and apply them in other parts of the world as well. Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you, Vedant. So I'll just add on to the various points we just mentioned and how also from the reflections from the colleagues globally, we just heard that how India is kind of striving towards scalable model, and AI as a scalable SSC enabler is something which the government of India is talking about a lot, and they are actually taking the necessary steps to see how it could be become one of the things from India to the global South countries, where we have already gained quite a bit of experience through the eWin and UPI, which are already positioned as leader in the scalable tech solutions. So I was just thinking through it, and I see that whatever conversation or the kind of discussions we had with the government of India, we see that AI definitely facilitates real-time data analysis and predictive modeling, which strengthens India's South-South cooperation offering. And India is kind of ready to share those experiences, especially around localized and transferable solutions. For example, India has done quite a bit on agricultural insurance, which is highly it's an AI-based model where the entire insurance platform is working on digital public infrastructure. And a year back, we had this community of practice, which was totally focused on agriculture, and where the Ministry of Agriculture in India showed kind of the interest that how they want to kind of disseminate this knowledge. And there was demand from various countries from the global South as well. And we are actually in the process of kind of developing a partnership with some of the African countries in this particular AI model, which is being delivered through agriculture insurance from the government of India. So this is one use case we could look at. Similarly, what Vedant mentioned about Vayu, about which Vedant will be sharing more information, which is related to climate as well as biodiversity. These are the areas where the government of India is really looking for such cooperation amongst the global South countries. At the same time, it is not just India to the world, but at the same time, India is trying to kind of intake knowledge from other countries, which we could explore further, that how it could be a two-way learning. As part of the South-South cooperation, for example, India is trying to understand that how sustainable use of land in various areas, for example, which has been done really well in Africa, that could be taken as a model from which India could learn something around sustainable use of land, especially its arid land. So this is again a typical model. So these are some of the few examples to cut short where India is looking at South-South as well as trilateral cooperation, covering various areas which could be, kind of tackled through AI and digital public infrastructure. Yeah, that's about it.
Thank you, Sudeshna and Vedant, for those reflections. I think happy to hear about the scale up that is happening in terms of your work and sort of the emergent potential of your work being replicable across regions and transferable, right? Now, one of the things sort of, I just wanted to briefly comment on that itself, right? I think part of this, push that we have with these various solutions developments is if we can generate them to be digital public goods that can be taken to different contexts, right? It would be wonderful for other countries as well. But one of the key things around AI is that where data knowledge is often localized in terms of the needs and the demands and the context, right? How we transfer is also something that we need to think about. We won't know all the answers a priori, right? We won't, everything. This is ultimately, it is not a cut and paste operation of when we transfer solutions across space and potentially time, right? But the more that there's engagement around these replications and understanding what works in context, the richer the evidence base that we are sort of also generating collectively for what works in terms of in development context with regards to AI. Moving on, anyone else who wants to sort of have any other sort of reflections, right, that they want to share, you can raise your hand and come on. And I see there are some already some thoughts from and questions for Nepal, for Bangladesh, and I hope the colleagues from these two countries could potentially respond in the chat itself to these, right? These questions that are there, and even Bu Anchie for you in Indonesia. Okay. So I think the questions there are there for you to sort of look at, but we'd like to sort of move into the third round, right, of this, the more exciting round potentially, which will be facilitated by my colleague Afreen. Afreen, over to you.
Thank you, Shri Ganesh. Hi, colleagues. For those who know me, they know me. But for those who don't know me, I am the regional lead on public sector innovation and the partnership side of digital. So the work that we are doing currently in building this regional community of policymakers, which is called as a digital stewardship community, is something that I work on, and most of you have heard from me. So looking forward to an exciting session. So let me quickly pose that question. So imagine, and this is not just for the 6 country offices, it is also for colleagues who are in our audience. So there is a pattern that we are so busy responding to the demands that our storytelling pitch is something that we all need to think about. So imagine if you were the RR of your country and you were to have that one top genie or the wish list that you could do in building the AI portfolio for the country office, where you believe that AI could have the strongest impact in what priority issues your countries are facing, what would that be? So it's okay for us to think about more than one, but it'll be good if you only think about one, because you are RR and you have to do, strategic positioning for UNDP, for in the country, for UNDP to be a partner of choice in the country and stay relevant. So take about 2 minutes to think about it. I don't want to literally put you on the spot. Think about it. And then we'll start calling out country offices. And for all the other colleagues who are not going to be speaking, please come out with your creative juices as RRs on the chat. Luisa will let us know when our 2 to 3 minutes are over. Thank you. And while you're thinking, think about everything that all the colleagues have spoken, something that literally stands out, something that you felt that you should have done in your country, but you still feel that you're busy fundraising for initiatives. So when you sit in an RR chair, there are so many things that you have to look at. And maybe you're also imagining yourself in the future. So think about that as well. And you'll have about 3 minutes for your RR elevator pitch. Also, the reason why we wanted to do this exercise is also to see, what different countries are, country office colleagues and countries are seeing where UNDP's position could be. This will also help us curate our offer for you and help us stretch the ambition that we want to work together with you on. Okay, the last 13 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, yeah. Okay. So let me shuffle the order and give the hot seat to maybe Sri Lanka first. So Yasas, do you want to go first?
You had to do that, afraid. But yes, no, sure. I think yes, a few key areas. I'm not going to stick to one, but pick maybe three as the priority for Sri Lanka. If we are to sort of imagine a scenario like that, but I think public sector capacity for AI is absolute key because what we've sort of in store, what we've planned, and for successful adoption of what's coming, having that capacity and understanding within public sector who will be driving these changes, this transformation, it's absolutely vital. And we see that as a big gap currently. That's why we are investing in that, the partnership with UNESCO that I mentioned earlier as well. So working closely with development partners who are interested and focused in this area is very important. And that's a vital step that I think as UNDP, I would prioritize. And number two is really supporting inclusive, right-based, and AI regulation. That's where our safeguards, our ethical AI thinking comes in, which is very important to build trust around AI, not just within public sector, but general citizenry as well. Because this is new technology. There's a lot of buzz around this. People are hearing lots of news, examples, cases from around the world, some positive, some negative. So how do we sort of ensure that there is the trust that is required around this? That's two. And number three on my end, keeping it quite short, is utilizing the community. How do we mobilize the local ecosystems? We've been working very closely with young people, with entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs especially as well, because it's very important for them to drive this inclusive and technology for the development goals that we want to achieve and for that sustainable growth as well. So leveraging that potential, working closely, because there's a lot of private sector, a lot of development partners who are very keen on tapping into this potential as well. So using that, so I'd highlight those three: public sector capability, ethical AI governance, and tapping into the whole ecosystem, the community on AI development. Still within the time, so.
Yay, that's nice. See, we are helping people to elevate their pitch for 2 minutes, but it was really nice to hear from you, Yasas. Thank you. It is a very politically powerful pitch, a clear RR pitch on building public sector capabilities, and in a country like Sri Lanka, which has faced a lot of crises, in governance recently, using the momentum of youth, building movements towards building trust and safeguards is a perfect combination. So thank you so much. And colleagues, keep in your mind that country offices like Sri Lanka and some others are also working on building public sector capabilities. As a team, we are coming up with something really unique, which is building cohorts of AI stewards. We'll be coming to you shortly on those new ideas that we are trying to build. But this is, as a part of our regional offer that we will do under the digital stewards community. So it's not just series of webinars that we'll be hosting, but you'll also see more substantial, deeper cohorts of, civil servants that we'll be anchoring on AI stewards. So, okay, thank you. So moving to the next country office, maybe Bu Anshe, Indonesia.
Thank you, Afrin. Yeah, so it's pretty similar with public service capabilities. That will be the first one. Given the size of the country, the ambition of the country, we need to start with strengthening the capability of public service. Another one that we would like to pitch is predictive, like leveraging predictive ability that is provided by AI, and that is to strengthen resilience in health, especially in health and disaster reduction. Yeah, so these are two things, and the last one, so well, within that, strengthening the resilience is to bring or bring inclusivity of local community in that ecosystem. And the last one is very sectoral, but it's very important for the country, is with tax administration. This is something that the country struggle with different aspect of it. There are the demand and supply. So there are lack of trust by citizen, but there is also many issue from government side. So these are three things that I would like to pitch. Thank you.
Thank you, Buanshe. Those were absolutely apt for a country like Indonesia. I'm sure Pak Nori will hear this and he'll be very happy, to hear about your recommendations. But I really like the citizen engagement part, specifically because you're building onto your work with Ministry of Villages to raise the ambition that the country office can do. So it is amazing to hear that. Okay, so let's move on to my neighboring country, Aman.
Yes. Thank you, Afrin. So I think it's the same, right? What Yesas and our colleague said. It will be the core part as UNDP, I would say, since we work very closely with the government, and our mandate is also to enable them to do it. But I would really pick, if it was one, right? Apart from that, I would pick data as a common good. Since we worked here in Nepal, we see there's a lot of problem with data, right? Data that is usable for AI technologies. We saw in the SDR report as well, there is a lot of biasness that comes from the latest technologies that is coming in, right? That is more skewed towards more developed countries. And because of lack of data, a lot of innovation is kind of stalled. And with data also comes, this infrastructural stuff, because data alone is not enough, right? So how do we establish data as a common good so that we can share it commonly with the ecosystem here? One problem that we see is, a lot of people are working on data, let's say in Nepali language. A lot of companies are working very hard, but they are doing the same thing. And a lot of companies are working on it, and it is not building up. It is not coming into one. So collaborative effort is not coming up. And I would really help the government to really work on this data, and not just language, but also other data. One of the reason is also because we see a lot of Nepali researchers doing AI research based here, and they talk a lot about it, but they're using data from developed countries because it's not available in here. So that they are also being part of this whole skewed results that comes into it, right? So I'd really focus on data as UNDP, and then from a long-term perspective, right? Not just working on few data, but how do we really make it a collective effort, and then a long term you build on it, right? And then work on different kinds of data and issues around that. Yes, that would be one aspect, I would say.
Thanks, Aman. So data is the new oil. It's cliche now. Everyone is talking about this, but thank you for sharing that. Specifically, in Nepal, I think for you, it is like an amazing opportunity. One of those few country offices in the region, very blessed with good amount of funding from donors. You have amazing programs like PLGSP on the ground. You have a lot of opportunity of trying to flex the government capacity muscle and adopt AI. Thank you. So let me move to my next colleague, my next neighbor, Sheila.
Thank you, Afrin. Okay, the pitch. So I'd like to pitch on the three areas. I think that UNDP comes with the years of experiences and expertise to work with different government institutions. So we believe in state capacity. So we're looking into the whole digital public infrastructure where UNDP would be supporting the state machineries and building the state capacity. On the AI, looking especially on the policy, ethical framework, governance, and of course, data is one of the big issue as well. But also importantly, how it will be engaging with the citizen as well. So this is very important where we see the state capacity from being an effective institution and make it more citizen-centric as well as we proceed in building the state capacity as a part of the public service reform that we have been engaging in Bangladesh for quite a long time. The second one we would like to highlight in, of course, engaging the citizen, and especially the youth, and understanding the ethical use of AI, as we have seen that in Bangladesh, but also the region and globally, the issue of having AI and the deepfake in the concept of misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech. So that's very important to have an understanding, and deeper than that of the educational perspective as well, how AI would be used from a citizen perspective, and also look into the digital divide, which is very important when we are talking about having equal access to all through AI. And the last one, I think that's very important for UNDP to build our own capacity, and being a country office which is savvy on AI. And of course, in doing that, we believe that we have enough strength as an institution. As a UNDP, we have worked with 170 countries, so we have global experts. We have global experiences that we can bring as a South-South cooperation, and offer ourselves in looking into different analytics where UNDP is good at doing different research, and we are using these AI tools in different parts of the global initiative as well, through our AI sprint. So I think this is something that the country offers as an RR. So I see these are the three going forward where UNDP would really make a change in the process of making AI as a tool for all. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila.
Always.
new RR in the room who's talking about building internal UNDP capacities on AI. So it's really interesting also to see, another Bangladesh colleague, Rebecca, mentioning about localization of AI tools to prevent cultural misrepresentation. It is also to the extent of, how wide our imagination can go to ensure that we stay relevant in countries, where we are working, and not just go on ad hoc request. One ministry officer needs this, the other ministry officer needs that. I think it's important for all of us to, take a step back and, see what could our strategic offering. But I think it's seeing a pattern already, but we'll be, with the Malaysia and Vietnam, we will complete the loop. But the pattern that is emerging, one, public sector reforms, capacities. Second, citizen engagement, youth engagement, for more participatory governance. All of this using AI is something which is almost becoming, the kind of demand that we are hearing versus how we want to respond. So let's hear from our AI leaders in the region, Malaysia. Yinwei.
All right, thanks, Afrin. So as a RR, I think there will be three areas that we would like to focus on. The first one is on AI and improving social protection system, as we have mentioned just now. I think with Malaysia kind of working towards a high income status, there is a lot of new challenges and crises that we need to be future ready with. And providing that real-time intelligence with rich data that brings in information from across different ministries to inform policies and to have targeted interventions for small pockets of people that might still be left behind would be something that is critical as we transition to that phase. And I think one of the key things that we would like to highlight is on the well-being, the multidimensional well-being intersections, and how that could be coherently done. Because as we speak now, I think there's a lot of focus on digital economy, but not a lot of connections is being made on social, environment, health, and those aspects of how it contributes to the economy and vice versa as well. So how can we kind of link this more effectively? And also during climate or crisis or economic shocks, how can we respond and build back better, faster as well? The second element would definitely be on the AI ethical frameworks and governance. In specific areas, I think building on to some of the business and human rights work that has been doing, whether working with businesses, SMEs, but also in a broader sense on how policies are being made, parliamentary interventions, how AI would influence that, social media influences, and how that collectively can be done in a more ethical and safe manner as well for data privacy reasons and cybersecurity threats that are increasingly happening in Malaysia as well. And the last area would be on AI and sustainability. Food security is an increasingly serious issue in Malaysia, looking at the supply chain disruptions that would come as well. How do we use AI to meaningfully create resilience for sectors like agriculture, making climate resilience is one, but also improving things on precision farming, on using of water, how could it be better health in terms of looking at the contents of the soil, and to reduce emissions in the whole sector in that sense. And as you know, Malaysia is also building a lot of data centers as we move along. How do we make sure that that is also an economic opportunity that is not compromising environment priorities as well? How can we make sure that it benefits also the citizens beyond just the early constructions, but in terms of livelihood skills and also other types of impact in terms of energy and water disruptions that might happen. So those are few key areas that I would say we would focus for the next 5 years.
I'm already getting tempted to put you together in a room with Vedant and Sudeshna on how DICRA could be married to the Malaysia country office on future of food security using data and AI. But thank you so much, Yinwei, for those reflections very prominently as your government is focusing on AI for digital economy. It is so prominent, and it's also probably something for Buanshi to connect on the tax administration bit that you're talking. So sorry if I'm over reflecting, but this is just an amazing session where we are hearing, and also seeing patterns. And coming to, the final country, which I'm always curious to know more about, Vietnam, Huyen.
Hi again. You're right. Well, I'm going to offer two things from the role of RR. First is to my own colleagues, right? We need to understand our own capacity, what we can offer to the country. So, first and foremost, elements that we need to take into account is to invest in our own capacity, right? In order to understand what AR is, what it requires, and the resources basically, and how to frame AI in the way that we can protect the people and the planet for sustainable development. Second is to scope the AI opportunities in order for us to understand what are opportunities out there for us to offer to the public sector. And the third one is to engage with our partners, our stakeholders, in order to understand their needs, whether or not they need us or they need someone else. And if they need someone else that is the private sector, then we need to put forward the agenda for public-private partnership in order for them to come together and we can be a convener. So that is my advice to my own colleagues. And for the Vietnam's government, of course, it is about AI governance. It's about bridging the digital gap, especially in terms of AI application, because we know that it's not only the Vietnamese language as an ethnic minority in the AI world. It is about other 53 ethnic minority languages in the country that are not there in the system. So, how can they chat with, the AI tool that we have created? So that is another thing that we need to talk to the firms that develop AI applications in order for them to train AI tools to talk to the people in their natural languages, right? And finally, yes, I do agree with one of the speaker earlier is about data. And in Vietnam, we need a concentrated data warehouse instead of a scattered network of data warehouse which are not connected. So in order for the Vietnam's public sector to develop, and adopt AI, in service delivery, it is essential for them to develop the data warehouse, which is concentrated. So those are my advice to Vietnam's government. Thanks.
Thank you, Huyen. So I think one thing that we didn't discuss and you powerfully brought up is public-private partnership. And
Yes.
very few colleagues mentioned, the private sector, but I think it is important maybe the next time when we convene, we should also think about what would be the impact of the things that we are trying to do, specifically in the kind of shrinking funding, space that we are actually going for, not just in the region, but globally. Thank you so much for those reflections. So maybe I have this wild card now. So getting ready for the next pass on. Everyone is looking at me is what's the wild card? We have Alex in the room. So Alex, sorry, I did not consult with you before putting you here on the spot. But imagine if you were Kani and secretly listening to all these conversations of colleagues and imagining the future of AI portfolio for UNDP. What would your 3 takeaways be? And you have 3 minutes for it. Sorry, not takeaways.
Hello, colleagues. Are we being recorded? That's the first question before I start speaking. Okay, look, so couple of things. I think it's great. There is such a diversity of what we already have started doing. And I think this is fantastic. And this is what country offices are, where the value of the country offices is in UNDP, right? Not waiting for all the formative strategies to be informed, built at HQ, but actually start doing stuff and start learning and being able to quickly respond to what government requires from us. And I think we can see across the board we are doing that really, really brilliantly. And I think also appreciate really how quite a few of us started looking the way how citizens' lives can be impacted, how we can actually deliver where UNDP has the prime positioning, which is around inclusion and improving lives of people, not just referring to the public sector as a goal in itself, right? But looking at the life of people and communities. I think, okay, now speaking as Kani to RRs, I think there are a couple of things as the next step we need collectively to think about. We talk a lot about convening, but I think what we need to get together, and here I'm addressing my regional hub colleagues, Afrin, Shiganesh, Louisa, we need to get our story right. Strategic convening, and Aman, you were part of mission of the Development Intelligence Lab, starts with the standing and credibility, right? And credibility comes from work that we do and demonstrating results. But standing is important for legitimacy as to survive in the space and to actually move at scale. And I think for this, we need to get the story right and the narrative, what UNDP actually stands for. Not just in supporting requests from the government, but actually shaping the direction where the government move on AI. That would be my first thing. So again, as a regional director, I just came back from Manila from annual gathering of ADB, where brilliantly Prime Minister from Vietnam said when we develop our AI positioning, we shouldn't be starting with the AI. We should be starting with the problems on the ground. And I think this is our next step in our learning cap as global organization, how we move from applying tools to actually understanding what are real problems and making the case for application of AI in a way that is cost efficient, but that also kind of preserving the climate. We all know the costs that AI deployment has for the climate, for energy and water use. So we need really to be judicious about that so that we walk the talk not just on AI deployment, but also on our sustainability and climate promise, right? I would say perhaps one more thing here, and it's fantastic that we started looking at the way how we engage private sector, but again, with my corporate hat on my head, right, is the way how we can sustainably finance adoption of AI, in particularly in the countries with the very constrained fiscal environments like Nepal or Sri Lanka. I think, dear colleagues, I have been talking about it since I came to the bureau. Okay, look at it. But yeah, final thing is start thinking also about the financing strategies and how we can bring more advanced examples from places like Malaysia, India, Vietnam, and others. Each of us has its own strengths of how we can combine and across the region demonstrate our value.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for the super rich discussion today and for all the pitches and how you've been referring to each other and how you've seen what others are doing and how you want to learn from them. So we'll take a few days to really digest today's rich discussion. And we'll be sharing with you the recording and some of the main points that we discussed today so that you have it handy. But also, I think there's a lot of new themes and opportunities that emerged from today's discussion that will really shape our upcoming learning sessions. So we'll be sharing that with you as well. So stay tuned. And yeah, we're I think at the 1.5 hour mark. Quite impressive how we've been able to share such a variety of ideas for our respective AI journey. So thanks everyone for that. And we'll be in touch with you and also make sure that those follow-ups and linkages are made. The chat was super active. I know that we were not able to answer everything, but we'll make sure to really go through everything and that we'll be doing the relevant follow-ups so we can continue the conversation. With that, thanks everyone. Have a lovely rest of the afternoon and until very soon. Bye, colleagues.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you
Take
so
care. Bye.
much.
Thanks.
Thank you.